Well, let's move to some of the issues here.
Absolutely.
You say that a sound education is the key to a successful life. How are we doing in K-12 education, and what can we improve?
Okay, absolutely. I get a little frustrated sometimes with my opponents in this race that talk about how bad the education system is here in the state of Tennessee. Well, if you start looking at, we have some bad pockets, but there's some very, very good things going on in education here too in the state of Tennessee. If you look at some of the areas where I represent, we have a program called AIMS Scholars that encourages high school students to get 4 years of math and 4 years of science, and we reward them with a special diploma if they do that. We have in Sullivan County a thing called Educate and Grow, that if you have a certain average when you get out of high school, then you can go to a community college. It's Northeast State in my area, but Vol State here, go for free, and things like that. I go on and on those, but there's things good. We need to take those good things and spread them across the state. But at the same time, we can't have our head in the sand and not face the facts that we have failing school systems, period. From Davidson County school system, Shelby County school system, there are some failing school systems across the state. So how do we correct those? Well, there's a couple of ways. First of all, take those good programs that we're talking about and spread them into these schools, but also I'm all for competition. I mean, I'm one that believes, well, I'm in my auction business. If I was the only auction company in Northeast Tennessee, I could charge whatever I want to and provide a lousy service. Well, that's kind of the way public education is in some areas in our state. So I'm adamantly in favor of charter schools that I've pushed for years and years to allow parents who have kids in failing schools to have an alternative. They need an alternative. I'm a big proponent of homeschooling. I think that if you look at our homeschool test scores compared to other scores, it's working. And so we need that competition in the K through 12 system, as well as some innovation by looking at what's working and spreading it statewide.
So then are charter schools and homeschools what you mean when you talk about trying to increase parental choice?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're talking about. The whole voucher system that is spreading some statewide, I think we've got to be kind of careful with that, because I think that if you have some, so I want to make sure that if we have some good private schools that are working, but you take taxpayer dollars and put them on, maybe they're Christian-oriented schools or whatever oriented schools, we want to make sure that you don't get government intervention by bringing that money along with you. So charter schools is somewhat of a compromise that these are publicly run charter schools, but they're operated by the outside to bring in some innovative ideas. And we do away with things when in charter schools, the teachers don't have tenure. They may not be paid as much as they are in other schools. They're there because they want to be. And you can look right here in Davidson County in Middle Tennessee at some charter schools that are working and working well. We need to spread that. We had a system that had their hands tied for years that it had to be a failing student from a failing school. And once they weren't failing anymore, they weren't eligible for charter schools. Well, that defeats the whole purpose. So we need to make sure we open that up to broad and provide some competition, yes.
What about on the other side of this? Does pre-K fit into this plan anywhere?
Well, I'm not a proponent. I'll be the first one to say I'm not a proponent of universal pre-K. Now, there are some areas for at-risk kids where you can debate that it does help those at-risk kids. I mean, even that's debatable by statistics. I can show you statistics that say it doesn't really help. So I'm not for universal pre-K. By that I mean, where every 4-year-old in the state of Tennessee is going to pre-K. I'll never be for that. We need to address those at-risk kids. We're about there, I believe, in addressing the at-risk kids here in the state of Tennessee and not expanding that. Keep in mind, Grady, we have a finite pot of money that we put in K through 12 education. We don't have unlimited funds. Nobody has unlimited funds and shouldn't. It's taxpayer money that we want to spend wisely. So it comes down to this finite pot of money. Do you divide it through K through 12 by 13, or you divide it by pre-K through 12? And I do think that the highest and best use of our money is keeping that money in K through 12 and not diluting it by sending everyone to pre-K that don't necessarily need it.
Okay. Well, what about the flip side of that, where you have said that a high school education is simply not enough? Given that you have a finite pot of money, how will you make higher education more accessible to people? Okay,
the Educate and Grow that we talked about there in Northeast Tennessee, that local governments will have to kick in a little bit to get those kids to go to the 2-year schools. And I am a huge proponent, Grady, of the community college system that we're sitting in the community college right now. And I think where we have missed the boat on this is assuming that every child wants a 4-year degree and wants to go on to 4-year college. And we've somewhat turned, not completely, but we've kind of headed in that direction, our community colleges into a 2-year school that just preparing you for the 4-year school. When I was in school at East Tennessee State University, I majored in surveying, and I was in the industrial technology department. It's kind of pushed over to the side of ETSU. We were kind of the stepchild some of the college looked at us as a glorified trade school, you know. But I majored in surveying. I got out. We had building construction technology. We had metals. We had electronics. But I can assure you one thing: when we got out, we had a job and a good paying job, and that whatever art history major is probably still looking for a job somewhere. So we need to go back and make sure we use our community colleges properly, where we're actually training kids to have jobs. There's nothing wrong with getting a 2-year associate degree in a trade and getting out and start making money tomorrow. I'm a big proponent of career and technical education.
Okay. Will you be able to increase this enrollment through, you mentioned educate and grow, but will you be able to do more without raising taxes or tuition at these schools?
I think we can. I think there is a lot of waste in higher education. I'll hand it to our governor right now, Phil Bredesen. He's looking at some ways right now to make sure we are providing an efficient higher education system. We do have somewhat of overlapping systems with the Board of Regents and the University of Tennessee trustees, and then on top of that you have THEC, and we're trying to figure out now for about 30 years exactly what THEC does. And I think that there is a more efficient model. If we look at what other states are doing, North Carolinas and Virginias of the world, I live within 30 miles, I live within 5 miles, Virginia, 30 miles, North Carolina. I think both of them have excellent systems that don't have the overlapping bureaucracy that we have here in Tennessee. Now, I'm going to tell you, Grady, that'll be tough. That is a political football. There are some what am I trying to think of? Something going to be scoured here. People don't like this. Let's put it that way. They don't want the change. They like it the way it is right now, and so we're going to make sure. But it's something that's going to have to be tackled for a couple of reasons. It'll give more people access to higher education, as I mentioned, and it takes some of the inefficiencies out of the system we have now. It'll have to be done.
So there's going to have to be some change to the structure of THEC and TBR.
You know, once again, when this airs, when this comes out, there's going to be people probably call me that are nervous. Anytime you even bring that up, the people start getting upset. But then again, we all agree that what we have right now is not the most efficient way, but they want to make sure that their little part gets protected. And that's what I'm trying to get at. It's going to take somebody with some political guts and some political savvy to get this through the State House and State Senate to provide this more efficient system. And my experience in the legislature for 17 years, I think I'm the one that can do that.
All right, very good. Well, let me switch gears here and talk about health care for a minute.
Okay.
It's very likely that changes are coming, and this is a major concern for most Tennesseans. If the federal health care reforms shift some of the costs to the states, how do we pay for mandated increases to TennCare?
I don't know. I'm serious. Look at what the governor's doing. Back up on this. Here's the way it works. Our governor, and I'll hand it to him again. He's Democrat and I'm Republican, but he right now is up there fighting with Washington, D.C., helping with the National Governors Association to let them know we don't need these unfunded mandates. I mean, just the last few days, Governor Bredesen has said that this is going to cost us about $1.2 billion in the state of Tennessee over the next 5 years, with the plan that's currently coming out of the U.S. Senate committees. So how do you pay for that? You asked that question. There's only 2 ways in the state government we can pay for things. We can't be like the federal government, thank goodness, that we pass this on to our kids, or maybe we're into our grandkids now. We have to have, when we leave session, the money coming in has to balance with the money coming out. And anybody, a small businessman like me, can figure this out. There's only 2 places you get the money. You either pull it out of other departments, whether it's higher education, whether it's transportation, whether it's prisons, or you raise taxes. Well, I can assure you we're not going to raise taxes to make this. It's just not going to happen. Our sales tax as high as it's going to be, and I'm saying if I'm governor, there won't be an income tax. So the only other place is to pull it out of other areas. And the governor says $1.2 billion over the next 5 years. Well, the 1 year that's his, the next 4 is going to be the next governor's time. Right. And so we're going to, it's frightening. It's frightening what's going on in federal government right now, that they don't understand basic economics, that if you pass something, you've got to pay for it. That never enters their mind, apparently. And we on a state level, by our Constitution, thank goodness, we have to have a balanced budget. So it's frightening what's coming out. It is.